The 152nd Open Championship, Royal Troon, full preview coming up for you. We got a great hump day Wednesday major episode, the last major of 2024. We're going to tell you about the weather. We're going to tell you about the pairings. We're going to give you our picks. We are on an absolute heater. Picked the U.S. Open winner. We picked the Scottish Open winner. Now we're looking to complete the trifecta and get the Open Championship winner and find out who will be the champion golfer of the year. All right, let's tee it up. I wondered why that cold open was so awkward, and it's because I didn't have my shades on. I didn't have my shady rays on. What a big L. I was like, what is on top of my head? Like hurting my head. Now I got them on the eyes.
You're awkward.
I am quite awkward. For those of you that haven't met me or don't know me, very awkward person in real life, IRL, and more awkward probably behind the camera occasionally, sometimes. We've got major week. I can't believe it's the last major of the year. But like we've said multiple times, still have the Olympics, which according to Tommy Fleetwood is the truest form of competition in golf. So he might be taking it pretty seriously on his way to a T5. But we also have the President's Cup coming up, the Olympics, all the BMW Championship, which we'll be at. So a lot of still important golf this year, but nothing compares to the majors, the fourth one of the year, the Open Championship. Where does this rank on your major list? I know we've maybe talked about this before, but where does it rank on your watchability and how much we're always obviously hyper focused on the majors and watch almost all the coverage, but where does it rank for you?
I mean, from an actual want to watch standpoint, it's right up there with the Masters is like T1. Now I'm on the East Coast, so it's a little bit more watchable. It's a little bit more doable because the tee times are not 7 hours from my local tee time. They're or from my local time. They're 5 hours. So it's a little bit more watchable for me out here on the East Coast because I think first tee times go out at 1:30 in the morning Eastern time on this morning. So they actually, I think, tee off for you, Spencer. They'll tee off at 11:30 tonight, which is insane to think about. You pull an all-nighter and just watch the morning wave of the golf. But, I mean, the British Open is, I think, the most creative of all the majors. I'm going to call it the British Open a million times. We went through this last year. It's the Open Championship. I call it the British Open. I don't give a shit. If you don't like it, I don't care. Because it's the British Open. That's where it's played. But I think from a creativity and a watchability standpoint, it is the best major in golf. It is probably the best tournament in golf because just like the Scottish Open last week, we can see some of this parity coming down the stretch. We can see guys that, wouldn't typically win a major. This is like, look at Brian Harman. You think he could go out and win a U.S. Open or a Masters? Probably not. Even a PGA Championship? Probably not. I mean, his game is not built for that, but this is such a different major in the way that you have to play the game that I think it opens up to everybody in the field.
Yeah, when you have a 5'4" left-handed player that has never really won anything significant in his life, absolutely dominated a course like this, it brings in a whole different type of golf, essentially, and a way of playing a golf course that we don't see in a lot of America's just normal tournaments or any of the majors. Real quick, before we get into our full preview weather report, I hope you've got that handy. You've been checking the radar and whatnot. I wanted to get into a question that came up yesterday that I was asked, and it's a golf-related question, nothing to do with the Open, but give me your thoughts on how you play golf with a different level of player. Basically, the question was phrased to me: do you play better with better players, or do you play better with worse players? And I want your thoughts on it. And I have like a hypothesis.
Um, I definitely play better with better players. I struggle a little bit, like, and not that that's the thing is I have fun with any level of player, but I actually play better when I play with better players. I think specifically because you're subconsciously watching better shots, and so you're envisioning better shots in your own head. Then you're watching somebody hit it all over the yard, three whacking it from 12 feet. They're hitting it in the native. You're looking for their ball, and it takes you out of the focus of your own game. Because I would say you and I are pretty used to, when we go out with our friends, we're the best player in that group. So you almost feel then like you're the golf babysitter, not baby, but you know what I mean. Like, you got to help everybody. You got to find balls. You got to keep an eye on the pace of play because nobody else is doing that. Like that's where we run into those issues. So I think when I play with players that are aware of the pace of play, even if they're not the best, but if we're talking specifically levels of play, I definitely play better with better players. But what is your hypothesis on this?
See, so I actually am the opposite of that. I play better with worse players because I feel like it doesn't keep my mind as like intense. And I play better when my mind's not super intense on what I'm doing. Like, if I am looking around for other people's balls and mine's in the middle of the fairway, I go up, I hit one close. It feels like I'm not thinking about it as much. And then I go back to helping our buddies look for it. I think too, the bachelor party, for instance, that we went on a couple weeks ago. And obviously we were the best players in the group. And for the scramble groups, they put us with the not best players. Shout out to all you I played with. I love you still. But I was hitting it so fucking good the whole day. And I've constantly had that. But my hypothesis is, which you have a different approach or a different thought on, is the better you are at golf, the better you play with worse players. It's kind of like a graph. It's like the hot crazy matrix. But the worse you are, the better you play with better players. Does that make sense?
Yes, I get that. I think we're talking about two different things because you're being preoccupied by other shit. Like, you're not necessarily talking about the quality, you're talking about the amount of time you get to focus on your own golf. So, if you and I, for instance, were playing together, and I'm a pretty solid player and I'm relatively focusing on my own game, but I'm talking, I'm bullshitting like I generally do. I talk my ass off on the golf course, obviously within reason. Um, but I think you can play good golf there. I think it's more of just an internal pressure that you put on yourself when you play with better players. You see, so I have the opposite theory, that I think not good players, but not as mentally tough players play better around worse players because they don't have the expectation of having to beat somebody and know that they already know that they're better than someone. Do
That
you
is
you see what I'm
that's me, because
you
the way I was explaining it is like I play better with worse players, but when I was shooting, when we just first got into competitive golf and I was shooting anywhere between 85 and 95 or whatever at a tournament in high school, when I played with better players, I was a little more locked in. I was like, okay, like I need to focus a bit more on this shot. Or if you can see a couple guys hit it on a par three, let's say to 10, 12 feet. You don't want to be the asshole looking for your ball or hitting it in the water. But now that I'm on the other end of the spectrum, to me, I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of the fairway. My buddy hits it to the back of the green in the rough. My other buddy tops one in the water. And then I'm like, 10 feet's easy. But if I'm hitting it with two good players and I see we're all in the same area of the fairway, let's say they hit it to 4 feet, they hit it to 6 feet, and then it's my turn. I'm like, fuck, I need to hit this to 6 feet. And then I don't hit it well. So I think it maybe is a mental level where we're at differently in the game of golf. But I truly think I play better with not as good players. And it may just be the coincidence that not as good players are a lot of our friends that I have a good time with. But I I hit it so well in the mountains with a bunch of guys that were I was basically scramble team myself. And, other than putting, which is always my bugaboo, I felt like I could have shot on my own ball anywhere between 65 and 69 at both of those courses with how well I was hitting driver, wedges, all of that good stuff. So, just an interesting kind of thought. We're going to clip this and put it out to the public because I think it's personally interesting, but I think when you're a not so good player, you focus more and play with better players, play better with better players. And then when you're a better player, for my aspect of it, with the better player, low mental game level, I play better when I'm around people that aren't near as good because I'm less worried about what my ball's doing and more worried about everybody else's. So maybe that just tells me that I should change my mindset when I'm playing with better players and not worry about my ball, worry more about their ball. But then that doesn't seem right either. I'm just talking in circles at this point.
No, I think honestly for you, it's got to be more about like, for me personally, I think the biggest difference is whether you're playing with good players or bad players, just staying in your own game. Because when you play with good players, then you start pressing. Like I played with guys that, have got a hot round going or 7, 8 under par, and I may be a few under, but I feel like I'm so far behind that I start getting out of my own game, and then my game gets worse from there. So that's another aspect of it. Whereas I would prefer to play with the better players because, like I said, if I look like I'm playing like shit and I'm even or under par because this dude is 7 or 8 under, that's great. But I'd rather look like shit doing that than feel good about being 4 or 5 over because all my buddies are 15 to 20 to 30 over.
That's
You
so
see what I'm
great.
saying?
Yeah, it's just our different mindsets. We're about the same level of player. You're a little better than me. I'll admit that on the air here, but it definitely is the difference in our mindsets and the levels of competitive golf that we played for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more, I mean, you obviously are not like rooting for your opponents to play well, but you just get more used to that the more good golfers you play against. And you're like, I mean, I played in a few money games down in Desert Forest in Arizona, and I was probably the worst player in the group or one of the worst players, and there's like 12 of us. There was a couple guys that were on the Corn Ferry tour. There's a couple on like the Latin American tour, some very successful like mini tour pros, and I did not have much success on the mini tours, but I was still like a +4 handicap, +5. And it was definitely a little demoralizing, probably because we were playing a skins game. And that's not my game. Like I make a lot of pars. And I think, I mean, there wasn't very many birdies because Desert Forest is like literally one of the hardest golf courses in America, probably. But I I had to stay within my game and just and realize that I'm probably not going to beat these guys because it's not my game, and that's ultimately why I did not succeed because my ceiling is not very high. My floor is pretty good right where it is. Like it's not my floor is not 95, but my ceiling is not 60 either. So
Yeah,
that's where
you're a high ceiling, high floor kind of guy. I'm a low floor, high ceiling kind of guy.
I'm just like a fucking peanut butter and jelly. You always know what you're gonna get. Like it's not gonna be anything that's gonna blow your socks off, but it's just consistency. It's fucking I'm Little Caesars. I'm hot and ready at all times. But it's not the best pizza you've ever had in your life either.
Oh, that's amazing. With that, what goes well with pizza? And that is a Lucy. Lucy goes well with anything. I actually got a
Nicotine
text.
in pizza?
Well, afterwards, a Lucy goes
Okay,
well
there
after any meal that you consume. I've got a Lucy in right now. I'm rocking the apple ice today. I actually had a friend text me yesterday and like, all right, we know you read about it on the pod. We know you're a former nicotine user, but now you're on the Lucy's. How are they actually off the air? And I said, dude, they're great. Like the different types of flavors are incredible. And something that us nicotine users really care about, which is not, he said it was weird or he thought it was weird. And I was like, no, I feel the exact same way, is also the size of the pouch. I've tried just about every nicotine pouch out there, and Lucy is by far the best size, and it just gets better with time. It's Father Time is usually undefeated, except when it comes to a Lucy. I mean, it definitely has an expiration, but I've never had a nicotine pouch in my mouth for so long and been so just good with it being in there and it like not needing to change it out near as much. They've got breakers, they've got pouches, they've got gum. So depending upon what your style of nicotine use is, they've got it all for you there. The breakers are incredible. They're very strong. I'm still kind of getting into the breakers. I don't use them as much, but never had a nicotine pouch that makes my breath smell better. So that's definitely a huge upside for the Lucy's. They come in 4 milligrams, 8 milligrams, or even 12 milligrams. I kind of want to try those just for fun, but I'm sitting on
They'll blow you away. They'd
Wintergreen
fucking
8s and Apple Ice 4s are kind of my sweet spot as of this moment, but 12 might blow your absolute socks off.
Yeah, I will say that you have been banging the Lucy drum in the group chats that we are in together because a lot of our friends are nicotine users. And in all honesty, I agree with you. The size of the pouch is on point, and it lasts longer than any other pouch I've ever used personally. So I think that is probably the best thing about it because instead of going through, sadly enough to admit, I would generally go through 2 cans a day. With Lucy, I only probably go through a can a day or maybe a little more than a can. So there's definitely that longevity factor where you're ultimately saving money. Even if the product is similar, if it lasts longer, you're going to use less of them and save money. So there's really a no lose situation there.
Yeah, so level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/BDE and use promo code BDE to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co. Use code BDE and get 20% off. And as always, free shipping. Plus, you're saving a little extra money on that if you get the subscription, which if you're going to use it and you're a frequent nicotine user, there's no point in not getting the subscription, which saves you even more money. Here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Another addictive chemical that we are going to be on this weekend is Bet365. It's not really a chemical. It's more of just a general addiction. But Bet365 is the app we use for all of our golf betting. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are on a little bit of a hot streak. We've hit anything that has open in it. I feel like we're dialed. So U.S. Open, we hit the outright winner with Bryson DeChambeau. Last weekend, the Scottish Open, it was looking bleak. And then we hit another winner with Robert McIntyre. So I think we're up. In the last month, we're up well over 60 to 70 units easily after winning the both opens, essentially the U.S. Open, the Scottish Open. Now, if we can get the Open Championship, we're put the crown on top of our head with the Bet365 app. Use the code ALLCITY when you sign up, and you get to choose between 2 separate offers. A first bet safety net of $1,000, meaning you get to bet up to $1,000. If it doesn't hit, they give you that back in bonus bets. You get to reuse those, take another shot at a winner. Or betting $5 and getting $150 in bonus bets when you sign up with that code ALLCITY. $150 in bonus bets are great to use for golf because there's great odds, huge payouts, and if some of the winners hit, which we are not going to reveal, normally reveal it right now during the Bet365 read, we'll do it at the end because it's major week. But there's a couple of guys, there's a guy on my card and a guy on Mitchell's card that if those hit and you're using like $1 or $2, whatever you choose, bonus bet on it, your account's going to have a nice, healthy balance in there. So make sure to check out Bet365. Use the code ALLCITY at sign up, and you're getting to choose between those 2 offers. It's the best way to bet golf. They have the live tracker, everything. It's incredible. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, where do we want to start with the Open Championship? So 152nd Open Championship. Royal Troon, it was last played here in 2016. Have you seen the leaderboard for that? Did you check that at all, by the way?
Dude, I looked at that and I thought I was looking something incorrectly because Henrik Stenson shot 20 under and top 5 Tyrrell Hatton was T5 at 4 under.
Yeah, it was Henrik at 20, Phil Mickelson at 17. They went back to back. Henrik shot 63 on Sunday. Phil shot 65, and the third place finisher, or T3, was 6 under. Just an absolute boat race match play day of a Sunday at the Open Championship, which I love. Like, it doesn't have to be a bunch of guys at the top of the leaderboard like we've seen these last few major championships, which are great too. We always just ask for a fun finish, But I think basically like, okay, one of these two guys is winning it. They're going head to head the whole day. They're playing in the same group. They know it's going to be one of them. Let's see how it pans out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of people forget that there for a while, Henrik Stenson was like the premier ball striker in the world. Like the way he hit three, he hardly ever hit driver. He hit that 3-wood off the tee. It was like an old Callaway X hot or some shit like that. And he hits it like 280 or 290 and just on a frozen rope every single time. But he put on an absolute clinic that week. And then, like you said, Phil Mickelson at the top of that leaderboard as well. So, what that kind of tells me is, in my opinion, these types of golf courses are much more approach oriented and around the green oriented than off the tee. And that's where I really think it sets it apart from American golf versus British golf, where off the tee is so crucial in American golf. Like if you hit it 330 in the fairway, you're going to have a flip wedge in your hands, you're going to be able to attack a pin, and you're going to make a lot of birdies, you're probably going to win. But in British golf, you can make like we saw Robert McIntyre do. You can kind of hit it all over the place off the tee, and you can still make birdies. You can still, get up and down from around the green, because even if you hit it in the fescue off the tee, you have a good chance of you're not chipping out of the fescue for the most part. If you're able to get a club on it, you can get it running down the fairway. Say you have a 200-yard shot, you can hit a 7-iron or whatever and punch it out 100 yards, and then it rolls another 40, 50, 60 yards. So these guys have a lot better chance of getting it up by the green in two, but then it's all about being able to get creative with these shots and ultimately make the, 5 to 10 footers that everybody is going to have coming down the stretch on Sunday at a major. Those are what separate the men from the Rory McIlroys of the group. You got to make those short putts. So
The Rory McIlroys.
That's actually very good. But yeah, we'll obviously get into our betting card a little bit later. But I think that it's going to be a guy that doesn't hit it as long this week, but it's somebody who's really good from 200 yards and in, and is good around the greens and is good on the greens. Like, I think you take strokes gained off the tee, not completely out of play because it obviously matters, but I think this major specifically takes those the bombers and the really successful strokes gained off the tee dudes a little bit out of play.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Let's start with the how to watch this tournament. So that's one of the big things in all sports nowadays. It seems like you got 7 streaming services. Some people have cable. So here is the TV schedule for the Open Championship. This is all times are Eastern here. So Thursday and Friday from 1:30 a.m. to 4 a.m. Peacock, 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. USA. Kind of ironic. And then 3 p.m. to 4:15 p.m. on Peacock. So that's Thursday and Friday. Basically, straight up golf from 1:30 in the morning to 4:15 p.m. for you there on the East Coast. For me, 11:30 at night to 2:15 in the afternoon. So I'll get I like how they've been calling it coffee golf. These last couple of weeks have been coffee golf. So I kind of like that term. I've been seeing that on the Twitter sphere and whatnot. Then Saturday, from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. on USA, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on NBC. And then Sunday, we're looking at 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. on USA, and then 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on NBC. So all of that will be your TV schedule. Of course, featured golf or featured group coverage all week is on Peacock. So if you're on Peacock, you're basically going to be able to watch the entire event without having to go to USA or NBC, depending upon your streaming service. But you're not going to be able to see the Peacock or see the leaders, or the Peacock is going to hide some things from you. It's going to hide a lot of the good golf shots. You're just going to see, one group here or there and watch their entire round, which, did I tell you about that a couple weeks ago? We were watching golf and it was on a featured group, and I was like, fucking show someone else. Like, I want to see someone else's shots. Like, why am I watching Xander Schauffele shoot 74? And then I realized it was because I had it on one of the streaming services, and it was just featured group scenario. So that was my
Yeah,
issue. But
I did the same thing a couple weeks ago. I was like, God, the PGA Tour is really nut riding Nick Dunlap here. Like he's fucking battling to make the cut at the Rocket Mortgage, and you're showing every single one of his shots. I was like, oh, it's just a featured group. So yeah, definitely don't get yourself caught in the featured group. Don't fall for that. You need main feed, or well, I guess there's really no streaming besides Peacock, and there's only going to be one broadcast on Peacock. I assume it's not like the ESPN Plus pick your group type shit.
no, and we get a week away from ESPN Plus. Shout out to them and PGA Tour Live. Like, they've made the coverage more watchable because you can actually watch it. But the actual announcers and the things that are said are, every week we have a group chat, me, you, and Ryan, and every week it's like, what are they talking about? What are they saying?
Yeah, it feels like sometimes the ESPN Plus broadcast just pulls people out of the stands and has them just riff for 3 hours because that shit is out of pocket. They're talking about the most off the wall random shit, and I think it's mostly like, let's see who's actually listening. Like, let's see if the front office at ESPN cares enough to be like, don't say that. You're like, oh, I got their attention. They actually heard what I said. So, but yes, I will say also there is nothing like British announcers. Like the just Britain in general, it makes me sound like an old. Did I say Britain? Britain golf in general, it makes me sound old and it makes me sound like a boomer, but the fans just aren't idiots. They're not yelling fucking mashed potatoes, which is ironic because that's in the part of our intro before our pod. But RK put that together. I think it's great, but that's American golf. That is not British golf. So you've got these little like claps. You've got all these people. They're not even yelling. It's very put together. It's very proper, but in a not in a like douchey uppity way, like in an out of respect for the golf type of way. Like they let nothing get in the way of just appreciating the piece of property at these events, and they really like highlight the golf course and the players that are obviously playing on it. They're not looking to, go over the top with the announcing, anything like that. And my other point was the British announcers just have a way of like somebody hits it to a foot and they're like, oh, that's an absolute crack of a shot. Like they don't go off the wall like screaming and shit. Everything is just like so quiet and proper, but it's actually like a nice change of pace from what the PGA Tour has become a little bit with, like you said, the ESPN Plus broadcast and all this. I do miss David Faraday, though. I wish he was at the British Open because he's just an all-time hilarious commentator.
Yeah, I think going to the point of respect for the game and the golf course, but not doing it in a douchey way is like the epitome of golf across the pond, and where a lot of the guys grew up. The Shane Lowrys, the Rory McIlroys grew up playing that style of golf. So you come to America, and there's a place for all of it. I think is what the best part about this game is. There's a place for the rink in Canada. There's a place for the stadium hole at TPC down in Arizona. Like there's multiple different ways you can skin a cat with a golf tournament, but the Open Championship just feels like Regal Beagle. That's what it feels like to me. And I enjoy that.
Yeah, if the Open Championship was an image, it would be one of those bulldogs with a cigar hanging out of his mouth in like a suit.
You think
You
so?
know what I mean?
I see it as like maybe one of those poodles a little bit that has like the really nice shaved like body and then has like the head and the legs and the tail.
Are you talking about your dog?
No, no, my dog's got the same length hair throughout. We're not doing.
He hasn't a few times. That it's been hilarious.
Well,
But
now,
anywho, should I get into the weather forecast for this week?
yeah, let's hit the weather report.
Uh,
Now reporting from Scotland.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mitchell Smith reporting from. I actually practiced this morning once or twice because I was like, I gotta fucking dial in this British accent. So this is British. This isn't Scottish, but this is my best rendition. All right, we've got a proper weather forecast out there for the Open this week at Royal Troon in Ayrshire, Ayrshire, as the Brits would call it. Thursday, we've got a high of 64. I'm sure, presumptively, it will be a little windy. That is pretty standard across the pond over there on the west side of Scotland. Friday, we've got 68, just a proper British day. Absolutely beautiful. Little bit of breeze coming off the southwest. And then Saturday, great chance for rain. High of 62. Bring the umbrellas, bring your galoshes because it's going to get wet out there. And then Sunday, we've got 62, cloudy, and a British Open championship. A British Open champion will be crowned. We'll hoist that claret jug Sunday afternoon in the wind and 62-degree weather.
Wow.
Back to you in the studio.
Very well done. That was incredible. Incredible
Thank
job.
you. I
It looks
stuck
like
in there.
kind of just like a normal British week. I've seen definitely some reports of wind, so that kind of adjusted my picks a little bit, which you expect. But they also said that there's this website called the Rabbit Hole where you can look up stats and like you can change all this stuff like wind at an average of whatever miles per hour. So definitely going to be some guys that are going to have to deal with wind, and that's how it should be. Like that weather report right there is perfect versus I forget, was it 2 or 3 years ago? It was like 75 and sunny, and it was the year Colin won. I believe that the weather was like incredible and not an issue at all, and that's how it should be for an Open Championship. Rainy,
Yeah,
windy.
I don't think Colin is capable of winning in adverse conditions. He's got to have it just on point. But yeah, the weather I think will be perfect. Saturday is going to be it is supposed to be the moving day, but by the looks of the weather, it could be the day where it's like hold on to your nuts and try not to shoot 80, and you might find yourself in contention come Sunday. But that is like I'm glad there's at least one day where it is shitty and it's not just, like you said, beautiful weather all 4 days. That's not a proper Open Championship type of scenario. We need to have some weather. Should we get into the golf course a little bit? Just a little golf course preview?
Yeah, before we get into the golf course, though, I want to tell you guys about what I always wear on the golf course, and that is my Shady Rays. Use the code AC35 at shadyrays.com, and you're getting 35% off polarized sunglasses. Get ready for golf season with the quality shades that are built to last. They have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They're an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Durable frames, crystal clear optics, unlike my phonetic ability right now, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. I have the Green Wolves. We've had multiple people hit us up for our code to get themselves some Shady Rays and some Green Wolf golf glasses. So make sure you're checking out Shady Rays. I'm always wearing them on the golf course, and I'm always wearing them on the podcast. And they just make me feel they're like my comfortability cloak, just having my Shady Rays on. I've got them everywhere I go. I've got them in my car. I've got them in my golf bag. I've got them at my house. I've got them in my backpack. So basically, you're never going to catch me without a pair of Shady Rays on. And luckily, I have multiple pairs most of the time because I had to loan you a pair for our bachelor party. I had to loan another guy a pair. So there was 3 pairs of my Shady Rays out there on the course. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Also, I'm sure we're going to be crushing a bunch of these this week. It's coffee golf, but when it gets to 11 a.m., what's the cutoff for Coors Light? 11, noon, maybe? When it gets to noon on a Saturday, Sunday, I actually am going to be at the airport Sunday morning and watching most of the tournament on a flight to Chicago. So I will be crushing a Coors Light or two on the airplane. Hopefully I don't have to pee, but it's not that long of a flight, so I think I'll make it through. But Coors Light is the beer we always reach for when we need a moment to chill. Also, just when we're on the golf course, it's easy. Order a 6-pack of the Silver Bullets when we get to the pro shop, or the bar, I should say. and then get some from the beverage cart lady, and just continuing to fuel your entire round with a good ice cold Coors Light. They have the twist off cans, which make it super easy for golf. I'm not a big fan of a regular can in the golf cart because it gets everywhere, makes everything sticky. I'm not a big fan of the sticky, more of a fan of the creamy, as we saw the last podcast. So when it's time for a refresh, just open a Coors Light, mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. So when it's time to chill, Coors Light is the beer I reach for. When you want to hit reset, grab the beer that is made to chill. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. All right, the golf course, Royal Troon, definitely a historic golf course, if you will. Been, I think they played an Open Championship here in 1923, I want to say, is the first time. And let me find one of the coolest things that I think about a golf course that I wanted to do when we ran a course and we never got around to it. And it just seems like something you have to do when the course is built is they named all the holes. And I'll go through a real quick rendition of the names of the holes once I find it. But
Well, so what I was going to say about this golf course is it is, they've talked about it on TV, so this is not news here, but it's a very classic links style course, which means the first 9 holes go away from the clubhouse. So the furthest point is the 10th tee box probably, and then the last 9 holes come straight back into the clubhouse. So I actually think it's kind of a beautiful thing because the wind, no matter what direction it's going to help you on 9 holes and it's going to hurt you on 9 holes, or unless it's just directly across. And then it's just kind of somewhat neutral across these 9 holes. But I did hear that the fader of the golf ball was generally going to have a little bit easier of a time here, I think, because the tough thing is, when you're drawing it on these courses and it's so windy, if you really get one hooking with the wind, it's going to roll through the fairway into the long grass. So you're not really able to like lay on something soft in the fairway and control it. You're kind of just, it's running for forever. Like there's going to be multiple 400 plus yard drives this week. But it sounds like fading the ball is going to be in the player's best interest if a guy leans in that direction versus the other.
yeah, Ludwig Aubert in the practice round hit a 449-yard drive and had like something in around the 120 to 140 range on a par 5. So he can lay the sod over that, make bogey, lose a tournament just as easy at Royal Troon as he could at the Scottish Open. All right, real quick rundown of the names. First hole through the 18th, we have Seal, Black Rock, Gals, Gyaws,
Gals,
Denier, Greenan, Turnberry, Tel El Kabir, Postage Stamp, awesome name, Tiny Green, par 3, plays 123 yards, The Monk, Sand Hills, The Railway, The Fox, Burma, Alton, Crosby, Well, Rabbit, and Craig End, not to be confused with Bell End.
Yes, so fun fact, the Postage Stamp is the shortest hole in Open Championship history. And then what is the longest par 5 out there? What's the name of that?
That would be,
it plays like 640. This is, I think, hole number 6.
that would be, yeah, 623. That's Turnberry. We call that
Okay,
Turnberry.
so Turnberry is the longest hole in Open Championship history. So we've got a lot of diversity on this golf course, which I enjoy. But similar to Pinehurst, it's 3 par 5s, 3 par 3s. And then there's a stretch in the middle of this golf course where 2 of the par 5s are holes 4 and 6. So then you start the round with 3 par 4s. Then you go to a par 5, you go 5, 3, 5. And then you go 4, 3, and then 9 through 13 are par 4s. And then you have another par 3. You go, the finishing stretch is 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. So you do have a par 5 mixed in late on the back 9, probably have an eagle chance. That is the shortest of the par 5s. So, there's obviously going to be a scoring chance there. But then 17 is going to play 240 into a breeze this week. So that's going to be a tough hole for sure to make par on. And then number 18 is a 460-yard par 4. So if you look at this yardage book with the idea that all these holes on the back nine are going to be playing somewhat into the wind, because the shortest par 4 on the back nine is 430 yards. So if that's all into the wind, these guys are going to be hitting a lot of long irons into these par 4 approach shots, and that's obviously going to test their game. The 3 par 4s that are under 400 yards are holes 1, 2, and 3. So I think we're going to see guys probably, and then they have the par 5 fourth. So we could see a few guys start, 2, 3 under par through their first 4 holes, really take advantage of the shorter holes, those first 4. And then they kind of go into the gauntlet of after the 7th hole, or after the 8th, I'm sorry, then they go the 5 par 4s in a row. And that's going to be like a really tough stretch where you just keep your head down, like Brooks Koepka style. He's like, yeah, I black out like in the middle of the round. You're not going to want to do that here, because I feel like that middle of the round is going to really, you're not going to do a lot of your scoring there, but you can't be making a bunch of bogeys on the middle of this golf course, because then coming in, you've got a few more opportunities to make birdies. But I see guys really starting off early and making quite a few birdies to start, and that's going to be like, just getting shot out of the gates and then try to hold on for dear life after that.
Yeah, there's 101 bunkers on this golf course, and that tends to matter a lot more in golf across the pond, because a lot of the bunkers in United States golf are like, oh, I hit it in a fairway bunker. I just have to hit my 6-iron into the green at a par 5 or my 4-iron just a little bit differently. Maybe I have to lay up, but with these bunkers, where they're placed and how they're built, with obviously deep as hell and the crazy ledges, like if you're hitting it in a fairway bunker off the tee on a par 5, 99% of the time you have no chance at getting even remotely towards the green. You're hitting a sand wedge or a gap wedge out of there, and then having another sand wedge or a gap wedge in, maybe even longer with some of the, like that 623-yard hole. So imperative to not be necessarily deadly accurate off the tee, as you spoke to earlier, but you have to avoid the fairway bunkers off the tee, because you're not getting that's bringing bogey into play immediately if you find a fairway bunker off the tee.
Yeah, the bunkers are the most penal part of the golf course. That and the wind really give these courses their teeth. But like you said, if they can just avoid the bunkers off the tee, they can handle it out of the fescue. But like you said, that's an automatic chip out from there. They're advancing at 40, 50 yards, and then they're most likely making bogey from there. So definitely something to avoid.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because when you see these course facts, not a lot of the times they're completely accurate. They're based on the golf course on a day-to-day play versus a major championship, which, that you can always adjust a golf course based on a major championship venue. But the green speeds are running anywhere between 9.5 and 10.5, which is extremely slow for these players. Like I said, that's not gospel. They're going to be probably a little faster than that. But if it's rainy or if it's windy, it'll make them faster. But if it's rainy and windy, it becomes like just kind of sloshy, and then they're going to be slow. And they also are the 4th smallest green ranks on like in the major championship circuit. So tiny greens, average size of 4,500 square feet.
Yeah,
That
and
was always
another
postage
another
stamp.
quick fact, on the bunkers. So, do you remember last year at Royal Liverpool, they flattened all the bunkers out so that all the balls could roll like up against the wall. They could stay up against like the back lip, wherever they basically dropped into the bunkers where they were staying. So this year they've changed it back. The RNA luckily has changed it back to where they've raked the bunkers from the outsides, and the low point is right in the middle. So more balls are going to filter towards the middle of the bunkers, which I personally think is a good thing, because those bunkers are hard enough as it is. You're going to have 8-10 foot bunker lips to hit over. You don't need to be pinned up against the wall of the bunker as it is, given how challenging they already are. So I don't know if you remember Scottie Scheffler bitching about that last year. But he already said in his press conference he was very pleased that the RNA decided to slope the bunkers back towards the middle of them as opposed to flattening them out.
Yeah, there. I would not play well in any of those bunkers. Let's just put it that way. It's not a.
I love the British bunkers. I mean, they generally tend to be a little bit more firm. So it's a little bit more of a picking motion anyway, but I've never had a problem elevating a bunker shot. Uh, there's not really a bunker shot that I feel like I can't get up high enough. So I don't know. I've just always felt very comfortable in the bunkers, but you're going to see guys with one leg in, one leg out of the bunker. You're going to see guys up against the lip. And honestly, one of the most fun things is there's contours all around the green. So I saw Rory hitting a bunker shot in the practice round. He was aiming 30 feet right of the hole up on one of these mounds, hit it up there, and it ended up staying up there. But if you're willing to take that risk, he was trying to roll it up to the top of that mound and have it come back down towards the hole. So there's just a lot of room for creativity. There's not one way to hit a shot out here, and that's what it's going to take to win, is somebody who, pushes through the bad breaks because they're going to happen, and really just battles on the greens. You're going to have a grinder out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight all week, and I'm really excited to get into it and start watching it. A couple of other things. Let's talk about the field a little bit, and we'll talk about the field and the pairing. So something that's always super interesting to me is how people got there and the qualifying levels of making it to, we know US Open, there's all the locals, there's the sectionals, same kind of thing for the Open Championship. But did you know that this is the largest major since 1995 in terms of participants? 158 players will tee it up this week. 159 teed it up at St. Andrews in 1995 when you were a mere 3 months old at that point. But here are the different the ways players qualified. Obviously, we're not going to go through 140 or 58 golfers. So all Open champions age 60 or under by July 2021 or July 21, 24. Open champions age 55 or under. Open champions from 2013 to 2023. The first 10, anyone tying for 10th place in the 151st Open last year. So anyone tying for 10th place last year gets another shot at it this year. And these are more important now more than ever, all these qualifying ranks, because of all the live players that don't qualify based on official World Golf Ranking points, where, all the points they're getting playing in PGA Tour events or DP World Tour events, like they're not getting any of this. So all these little things matter. So a guy that's on the live tour that is maybe, 12th to 15th, maybe pushing a little bit harder towards Sunday to get to the top 10 to make sure he's coming back to the Open Championship next year. The BMW PGA Championship winners from 21 to 23. The first 30 players in the Race to Dubai rankings for 2023. The first 50 players on the official World Golf Ranking for week 21 through 2024. DP World Tour, first 5 DP World Tour members and any Race to Dubai members in the top 20 of the Race to Dubai rankings on completion of the BMW International. US Open champions the last 5 years, Masters champions and PGA champions, or Masters champions from the last 5 years, PGA champions from the last 6 years, Players champions from the last 3, top 30 players from last year's FedEx Cup, and there's a ton more. Senior Open champion of 2023, the Japan Open, US Amateur champion, European Amateur champion, the Open Amateur Series winner of 2024, the Latin America Amateur champion. So a lot of amateurs getting in there, and then there's some medical exemptions. But just so I'm always so curious as to how guys got in this, and they do a really good job. NBC Sports does a really good job in an article, and every player has they have like the way they qualified as numbers. So 1 through, there was 27 different ways to qualify. And then each player has the numbers next to their name of how they qualified. So like Brian Harmon, for instance, obviously he's going to be in this until he's 60. He won it last year. He's our current champion golfer of the year. But Brian Harmon has, I believe it's 5 numbers next to his name. Yeah, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 13. So that is, he's the Open champion aged under 60, under 55. He's the Open champion from 2013 to 2023. He's the first 10 from the 151st Open, the first 50 players on the official world golf ranking, and then he is the first 5 PGA Tour members exempt in the top 20 of the FedEx Cup. So just he qualifies all over the place, and he'll be playing in this till he's old as shit. But we actually had 3 dudes not that qualified that aren't playing this year, and that is Ben Curtis, Paul Lowry, and David Duval, who withdrew last week. But those are all past Open champions, and I don't know, like when you get to that age, you're like, well, I could go fucking play in this again, or I could not. But like, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool. Like every year, you're an older retired dude just living the life and who knows where, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go play in the Open Championship for maybe 2 days, shoot, whatever, 75, 80, and then head back home.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the opportunity, you're not going to not go tee it up, in my opinion, unless your game is just absolutely in shambles and you don't want to make an ass out of yourself out there. But that was the biggest mouthful of just numbers and fucking words. That was the biggest word salad you may have ever had on the pod, because you lost me. I mean, I understand all the distinctions, but it just kept going and going and going. So we can move on from that. How about we get into some of our favorite pairings? What caught your eye?
All right, so pairings. Let's start with you because I got to get back to my right after that word salad. I need a minute to breathe and have some water.
Yeah, it's like you just fucking ran a marathon after that situation. Um, so they definitely bunched all of the like premier players together, it feels like, because we've got a group of it kind of starts at it starts at like 925. You've got Tony Finau, Russell Henley, Matthew Pavon. That isn't like a crazy group, but that's a group I'm going to be watching because that's got one of my players that I'm in pretty heavy on. But then you got John Rahm, Tommy Fleetwood, Bob Mack. So that's going to be a phenomenal group to watch.
Real
Do you
quick,
know
did you see? Oh, what were you
the
going to say?
Tommy Fleetwood stat? Who's the most under par in the last 5 opens?
Bingo, you got it. Yeah, he's like
Yeah,
32 under, the most cumulative T10s in the last 5 opens apparently.
yeah, the model of consistency and not winning or winning us any money. So, and it would just be such a slap in the face if Tommy Fleetwood goes out and wins this week. Part of me would be very happy for him because he seems like a great dude, and I have no reason to hate him other than just betting on him and him not winning. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a surprising stat. Then after that, so at 947, you've got Aubert, DeChambeau, Tom Kim, which is definitely also a marquee group. And then right after that, you've got 958. You've got Brian Harmon, defending champ, Victor Hovland, Sahith Theegala, who is obviously Sahith Theegala has been a kind of a dark horse for almost every tournament this year, and everybody's just keeps waiting for him to win. He played well last week in Scotland, but I just don't, I don't see it happening. It feels like we've talked about previously, you have to take certain steps in order to build yourself up to win a major championship. Um, but I just don't think he's there yet. Maybe in 2 or 3 years. He's only 26 years old. He's got plenty of time. But I don't think he's there yet. And then right after that at 10:09, we've got Rory McIlroy, Max Homa, Tyrrell Hatton. That's going to be a phenomenal group to watch. And then after that, it falls off a little bit. And then in the afternoon, you've got your premier groups. You've got Wyndham Clark, Hideki Matsuyama, Brooks Koepka at 226. 237, you've got Tiger Woods, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay. And then 248, you've got Colin Morikawa, Sam Burns, Siwoo Kim,
The
and a few other.
259 or the 9:59 a.m. start time of Shane Lowry, Cameron Smith, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Great group there. Great
That will be a phenomenal
European
group.
/ Australian group. But are you interested, or does it interest you at all, like who they paired Tiger with? Because I will say this, just so it's on the record, I actually think if Tiger wins another major, this is going to be the major, not necessarily this year, but this type of golf, because he's not as deadly accurate off the tee, but I think he can do everything well around the greens and knows every golf course that they play like the back of his hand at this point. But pairing him with Xander, major winner from this year, and then Elmer's glue boy, what do you make of the Tiger Woods pairing?
Yeah, well, I think obviously with how slow Xander and Cantlay both are, it gives Tiger a little bit more time to breathe walking around that place and really take his time. He can walk over to the next tee while Cantlay's reading putts. He can probably even tee off. Like, I'd be like, bro, can we play some ready golf? Because I'm going to be halfway down the next fairway by the time you get to the tee box. But Xander and Cantlay are two known like best buddies, and I think Tiger likes both of them. So I think that's a good pairing for him. Brooks Koepka is going to be. I want to see. Part of me, I like Wyndham Clark. Don't get me wrong, but part of me wants to see Brooks just bury Wyndham Clark. Um, Another crazy stat, and I know that Wyndham has just kind of emerged on the scene. In the last 2 years, he won the U.S. Open last year. He only has one top 10 in a major, and
Really?
that was the win at the U.S. Open.
Wow.
So relatively speaking, other than that, he has not done very well at the majors. He is coming off a hot Sunday round at the Scottish Open, so that could carry over. But
How about putting
another,
Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson together with Used Luton? Like, they're just like, yeah, you guys can enjoy this round of both of you shooting well over par.
dude, Yo Slouten, he's actually like a really fun watch. He's one of the OG European Tour from back in the day. He's got like this curly hair and he wears like the old school visor, the non-tour visor. So I actually do enjoy watching him play. But yeah, Mickelson's probably going to shoot a million. Dustin Johnson's going to be looking for his ball all week. So I don't see that going well. The other thing for me is I see these talking heads on TV picking Colin Morikawa to win, and I just don't see how that's going to happen. Like, if he hasn't been able to get it done, at any of these events that he's played well at, I'm not saying that he's not a good player by any means, and we talked about it on Monday, but you think he's really going to go get it done at a major when he hasn't been able to get it done down the stretch at any of these PGA Tour events this year? Like, it just doesn't seem he'll be in contention, sure, but I just don't think that he's gonna win. Like, what makes everybody think that he has not been able to clutch up and make putts down the stretch and play well on the back nine on Sunday, and all of a sudden he's gonna pull it out of his ass this week and do it? I just don't see that happening.
100%. How about the wild ride they're putting the world number one Scottie Scheffler on with Jordan Spieth and Cam Young? Two guys that can shoot 63 or 83. Like, that's gonna be a wild Thursday, Friday for him.
Do you know what the pairing actually is? Is it's Cam Young and Scottie Scheffler, because Jordan Spieth is not even going to feel like he's in the fucking group, hitting second shots from other fairways from the railroad. They're going to be like, I haven't seen this guy in 3 holes. I didn't even know we were playing with him. So yeah, that's I mean, two of the premier ball strikers on the PGA Tour and one dude who just can't even seem to find the club face. So but everybody always loves to pick Jordan Spieth. He does have the short game, but the ball striking is just not there for me. I'm frankly kind of sick of watching him beat it around and fucking make a mockery of these golf courses. So here's another pairing I think will be a good time for Santiago De La Fuente, who's just an amateur. I feel like I recognize that name. Maybe he won the Latin American Amateur. I could be
Do you
totally
want me to
wrong.
find out his ranking?
Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah, go ahead and take the next 10 minutes and do that. But John Daly, he's paired with John Daly and Aaron Rye. So that is a little bit of a wild ride. Aaron Rye is, I actually think, has a good chance to top 10 this week. I think he's finished in the top 10 the last 3 straight weeks. He's just a ball striker.
He wasn't even in the Open until he finished his finish at the Scottish. And
Oh, wow.
somebody tweeted like a week and a half ago, it's kind of a disservice to the game of golf that Aaron Rye is not in the Open Championship because of how well he's played. I mean, yeah, he's not fun to watch, and he's kind of faltered on Sunday for like 4 straight weeks now. But as a top 10 pick, he's just like an auto pick, it seems like at this point.
Yeah,
Santiago de
I
la
would agree.
Fuente, Latin American Amateur Champion 2024.
That's exactly what I just said. That's
I was
fucking
just confirming it, for fuck's
no,
sake.
no, no, no. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not coming at you. I'm giving myself a pat on the back because I could have just like misappropriated that completely, just assuming he won the Latin American Amateur because of his name and he like fucking qualified on the Asian tour or something like that. I have no idea. But I'm glad I got it right because that's I feel like didn't he play well at the U.S. Open or something like that? Wasn't he up there? I could be wrong. Don't look it up, please. This is gonna take forever.
You got
Uh,
it. Before we get in, let's get into our picks. Final picks for the Open Championship. We're 1 for 1 in last tournaments. We're also 1 for 1 in our last majors. Real quick though, I've got 2 Scottish sayings for you that I want you to guess what they mean. All right, you ready?
yeah,
Here's the first one. Lang may your lum reek.
no fucking idea.
Loosely translated, it's long may your chimney smoke. It is a well-wishing desire for you to live long and stay well.
I like that.
And then we've got, all right, this one's a good one. Your oos is out the window.
Your ass is out the window. That's what it sounds.
That's the
like.
loose translation. Your ass is out the window, meaning you're out of luck or you're talking nonsense.
I actually love that. I'm going to tell you your ass is out the window. Fucking half of this podcast now. That's a great saying.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's get into the picks. Have you seen mine? Can you see it?
No, and I honestly can say I'm not impressed. I
You have seen it or you haven't?
No, this is my first time seeing your picks, and I do not like what I see, if I'm being dead honest.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going full chalk. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just am.
John Rahm, are you fucking smoking crack?
I was fighting all day, all morning with myself on this, to be honest. But Rory McIlroy plus 650, so close to the U.S. Open. I think he's reinvigorated. He wants to win this championship. I know. I'm like sick. I was like sick typing these, but these are a couple.
I can't wait for him to T7. He's going to shoot 65 on Sunday. Easiest top 10 pick in the world.
Yeah, well, shout out to the Bet365 app. As long as he finishes in the top 12, I'm still cashing out on that bet. Then John Rahm plus 1,600. I have a weird feeling about Rombo this week. I don't know why. He had the withdraw at the U.S. Open, so we didn't get to see what form his game was in. Playing on the Circus Tour down there in Andalusia last week. Didn't finish all that high.
Is his toe back in proper health now or what?
Fully healthy, ready to roll. And then Akshay Bhatia plus 6,000 each way 1 through 12. He plays well in the wind, and he is my prince. So I'm going to continue to ride Akshay Bhatia. I feel like he's got a good chance this week. There's a couple guys I left on the cutting room floor just for the record, so it's out there. Shane Lowry. I really wanted to pick Shane Lowry this week. And then Bryson DeChambeau. Of course, Bryson DeChambeau won the U.S. Open. That honestly, made me not want to pick him for this week. I don't feel like he can win this week. I don't feel like Rory can win either or John Rahm, but I don't know. They're just on my card. But I don't think Bryson can go back-to-back majors personally, but they were on my cutting room floor. Bryson DeChambeau and Shane Lowry.
See, I actually like Akshay Bhatia the most out of all your picks. I mean, Rory, it's possibly too from just an odds standpoint because paying that much for Rory to get that little of odds is just not worth it to me, as you can tell. And I went with a specific trend of player. All 3 of my picks are not the greatest drivers of the golf ball, and strokes gained approach, strokes gained around the green are very good. So I've got Tyrrell Hatton. I feel it scares me to death, but I actually put a fair amount of money on these players to win this week.
Let me say real quick, this is so exciting for me because I'm going to be tweeting multiple of our text threads from this weekend because of how pissed off you're going to be. There's no more pissed off human being in the world than Mitchell Smith losing bets or like guys that he bets on doing bad or doing something bad. So it's going to be an electric weekend. When you sent me the slips from the app, I was like, yes, I got fired up.
I am absolutely going to sewer all three of these dudes at one point or another throughout the weekend. But Tyrrell Hatton, I feel like he's due to really break out. He's had a lot of. He actually finished in the top five. I talked about it earlier. He finished T5 here 8 years ago, which is pretty impressive. Um, when you hate the picks, that's when they're the best. I know that Spencer may have the best card, and it's going to make me fucking sick.
And shout out to Wade. He actually DMs us. He hit the Bryson pick with us and hit the Robert McIntyre pick with us. So
Let's go. That fires me up. I've never felt stronger about a card that I've given out. Because like I said, I put my own, we bet our picks every week, small amounts, but I put a fair amount of money on these three dudes. So I am very invested personally at this point. So Tyrrell Hatton, he's I feel like he's gonna win an open championship at one point or another. He's cut from the same cloth as Bobby McIntyre, Shane Lowry, all these dudes that are capable of winning this tournament. He just gets it done around the greens. He's so good around the greens. He's so good with the putter. And I just want to see him berate himself on his way to a win and just bitch about everything under the sun. Cameron Smith, I've got my Ripper GC hat on today. That's why I'm representing. But he is another dude. He's won an open championship a couple years ago at St. Andrews, which is electric. But drives the ball like dog shit, Bobby Mack-esque. Surprisingly enough, for not hitting it very far, he just does not find many fairways. But the irons are top titty premier fucking whatever you want to call it. He's tops in the world in ball striking, from 200 yards and in. He's a great long iron player. And then around the greens, he's phenomenal. So plus 3,000. And then I had to put Matthew Pavon on here. Like if I hit my Pavon pick, I'm going to make over $3,000. And that's just like in the top 10. I think, or I'll make probably $1,500 to $2,000, no unit shaming, in the top 10. But I think Pavon is playing. You take the general scope of this year, he hasn't played well the last few weeks, but he was on the doorstep of the U.S. Open, played his ass off there. And I would say that Pinehurst and Royal Troon are almost similar, just in the way of like the long par fours. You got to be really good around the greens. You got to know where to hit it. You got to make putts. And that is Pavon's game. He's not the longest hitter. Finds quite a few fairways, but he loses strokes off the tee. He gains strokes everywhere else. So those plus odds, I was scrolling all the way down and I saw Pavon. I'm like, this dude's got a top 5 at a major this year. He won at Torrey Pines. He's, top 10 in the FedEx Cup. For as much shit as I've talked about him, like kind of being not fraudulent, but I might think he's a little overrated. I really think he has a great chance this week to, finish what he started at Pinehurst, and those odds, I could not turn those down.
yeah, that's a great pick. And to your point, he's had a little bit of the choke scenario where I feel like he's going to Ryan Fox you this week, where he'll probably be leading the event at some point or pretty close to it. Hopefully he holds on for our units and our betting. I also want to get one more thing out there. Tyrrell Hatton was also my pick. So Mitchell took one of my guys, which is fine. We boosted Tyrrell. I boosted Tyrrell for you because
So we're on what is it called? We're consensus pick on Tyrrell Hatton.
yeah. So if Tyrrell Hatton wins, we just shut the podcast down. This may be the last episode ever, other than our cigar smoking victory episode on Sunday afternoon.
Should we roll up like Shannon Sharp, fucking do-rag on with a cup of whiskey, and maybe not no do-rag, but a cup of whiskey and a cigar if Tyrrell Hatton wins this week?
Yeah, I'm in. We'll roll up to the CHGO tournament Monday morning at St. Andrews, ironically, St. Andrews Golf Club in Chicago, with a full-on party on Sunday afternoon in the Chicago area. That does it for us for this Open Championship preview. We appreciate you all tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up on the way out. Click that subscribe button. Big Drive Energy Golf. We're here every single week. Show notes for you coming up. We'll do a show on Friday, a little halfway home show of this final major, and then we will do a show live Sunday, times to be determined, but probably around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. I'll be in Chicago. We'll actually both be from Chicago in different areas, but make sure you're checking out those live shows, especially during the majors. We have a blast doing them, especially when we're watching the guys come down the stretch. Hopefully it's a fun one. Make sure to click that like and subscribe. Follow us on all social media at Big Drive Energy. We'll talk to you guys.
Real quick. I'm sorry. Last show note. I texted Jonathan Sampson, our good friend, the guy that took me over to Scotland and gave me the opportunity to play all these spots. He's played Royal Troon multiple times. And I asked him what he thought the winning score was going to be this week. And, who's going to play well, just a general, general group of guys. He said weather's going to have a lot to do with it. Always winning score of 12 under if the wind doesn't blow. If it blows, -7. And then he said, look out for a lot of driving irons and 3-woods. So a guy that can control it off the tee. I love that. And I just love the insight from Jonathan having played there before. So
yeah, Tiger Woods, baby. Hit that stinger. Sting your way to an Open Championship. Being
going to be seeing a lot of driving irons off the tee in our future.
Love it. We will talk to you guys Friday. Make sure to tune in. We're out. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.